hung low over the jagged cliffs of Valdora, its silver light spilling across the dense forest like a warning. Somewhere deep within, a castle of black stone rose from the shadows, silent yet alive, as if it had been waiting for her. Alicia crouched on the edge of the forest, trembling, heart pounding in her chest. She had been running all her life, from whispers that called her weak, from a world that told her she was too fragile to matter. And then she heard him, a growl, deep and commanding, yet threaded with something softer, something terrifyingly intimate. "Don't hide from me," the voice rumbled, cutting through the night like molten gold. Her knees buckled. Golden eyes glinted in the darkness, a predator's gaze that seemed to pierce her very soul. The Lycan King of legend, the alpha who ruled this kingdom with claws and fire, was standing there, looking at her as if he had been searching for her all along. Fear clashed with something unfamiliar, something thrilling. For the first time, someone truly saw her, not her fragility, not her trembling, but all of her. And in that moment, Alicia understood that nothing would ever be the same again. She was claimed, whether she was ready or not. The moon hung low and silver over the dense forest, its light spilling across the jagged cliffs like a blessing from some ancient deity. In the heart of the forest, hidden from human eyes, rose a fortress of black stone, its spires piercing the sky like claws. The Lycan kingdom of Valdora had been silent for centuries, its rulers feared even by the most powerful packs. And tonight, that fortress bore witness to a trembling Omega who had no idea her life was about to change forever. Alicia's hands shook as she knelt by the roaring fireplace, the heat brushing against her pale skin but failing to calm the storm inside her chest. Her silver hair fell like a waterfall over her shoulders, each strand catching the firelight. She was beautiful, painfully so, but in her mind, beauty was a curse. She was an Omega, delicate and sensitive. And she had always been told she was fragile, an imperfection in a world that demanded strength. "Don't hide from me," a voice rumbled, deep and commanding yet tinged with tenderness, slicing through the shadows. The words carried a power that made her chest tighten. She froze. The voice belonged to him, Adric, the Lycan King. His presence was magnetic, terrifying, and yet unbearably alluring. The air seemed to bend around him as he stepped from the darkness. Eyes glinting like molten gold, muscles coiled like a predator ready to strike. Every movement he made exuded strength, dominance, and ownership. He was her king now, and somehow the thought made her both terrified and alive. Alicia's knees wobbled. I didn't mean to, I just... Her voice faltered, fragile as glass. Edric knelt beside her, his hand warm as it brushed against her trembling fingers. The scent of his wolf, rich, wild, intoxicating, wrapped around her like a cloak, and she inhaled shakily, unable to pull away. "Don't hide," he repeated, his voice lowering into a growl that made the firelight flicker. "I see you, every part of you, all of you, your fear, your sorrow, your hesitations, I see it, Omega, and I will not let you hide from me." Her heart hammered against her rib cage, threatening to break free. No one had ever spoken to her this way, no one had ever seen her fully and wanted her anyway. Adric's eyes softened, though the edge of his power never dulled. "You are mine now, and I will protect you. I will guide you. I will love you, Alicia, but only if you let me in." Tears threatened to spill down her cheeks. She had spent years hiding from the world, cowering from those who would dismiss her as weak. But here was a man, no, a king, who demanded nothing but her trust. Alicia nodded, trembling. I will try." Adric's hand moved to cradle her jaw, tilting her face toward his. His thumb brushed her cheek, gentle but possessive. "Trying is not enough. You must allow yourself to feel. Every moment, every heartbeat. Don't be afraid, Omega. I will be gentle, but I will be relentless." And with that, he leaned closer, their foreheads touching, and Alicia felt the first sparks of a bond she didn't understand, but instinctively trusted. The fire crackled, the wind outside howled like wolves in mourning or celebration. It was impossible to tell, but inside there was only them, the king and his trembling Omega, two hearts bound by fate and desire. The night stretched endlessly, filled with whispered words, promises, and a closeness Alicia had never known. She felt the weight of his gaze on her, felt the strength in his hands, and realized something terrifying yet exhilarating. She was no longer alone. She was claimed. She was loved. And in the darkness of that ancient fortress, with the moon casting silver light on their entwined forms, she allowed herself to finally be seen. The first light of dawn spilled over the horizon, painting the fortress walls with a soft, golden glow. Outside, the forest whispered with life, the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of wolves, but inside, the fortress was eerily quiet. Elijah lay curled beneath a heavy velvet blanket, her body still trembling from the intensity of the night before. Her heartbeat had not yet settled, and every nerve in her body seemed to hum with the memory of Adric's touch, his words, his presence. A soft knock echoed against the door. Elijah froze, unsure if she should move. The voice that followed made her entire being tighten. "Elijah," Adric called softly, his growl tempered by gentleness. "Rise. You cannot hide from me in the daylight either." Her stomach twisted into knots. Even now, she felt exposed, vulnerable in ways she had never known possible. Slowly, she pushed herself upright, the blanket falling around her shoulders. Adric stepped inside without waiting, as though the room itself bent to his will. His eyes scanned her, golden, molten, and Elijah felt like she was being stripped bare, not in body but in soul. She shivered, part fear, part longing. "You slept poorly," he observed, his voice low, dangerous but tender. "Your Omega instincts are strong, but fear still clings to you. I will help you rid it, but you must trust me entirely." "I'm trying," Elijah whispered, her hands clutching the blanket tighter. She couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him. Yet the intensity of his presence left her breathless and terrified. Adric moved closer, bridging the space between them with a predator's grace. "Trying is not enough," he murmured, tilting her chin up so their eyes met. "I need you to let me in, to let yourself be vulnerable. Only then can I show you how deep my love runs." Elijah's breath hitched. She had never been spoken to like this, never had a man see her completely and demand her trust, yet never threaten her with cruelty. The contrast was dizzying. "You are mine, Elysia," he said, each word a promise and a command. "And I will never hurt you, not truly. But I will push, because you must learn to embrace what you are. Your strength lies in your vulnerability." She swallowed hard, feeling the storm within her begin to calm, even if only slightly. I want to believe you," she admitted, voice trembling. Edric's lips curved into a rare, soft smile, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. He reached out, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "Then believe me. You are not just an Omega. You are my Omega. And together, we will weather anything. No hiding, no running, not from me." Elijah's knees threatened to give way, but he caught her effortlessly, holding her steady. His body radiated warmth and power, a fortress she could lean on if only she dared. The morning passed in quiet intimacy, the kind of closeness that didn't require words. Adric guided her gently, teaching her to walk through the palace halls without fear, to taste the sunlight without flinching, to allow herself to breathe in the scent of the forest that surrounded them. And with every moment, the invisible threads that bound them strengthened, weaving a tapestry of trust, desire, and something far older than either of them could name. Yet as midday approached, a shadow crept into the fortress, an unwelcome reminder that even in this sanctuary, danger lingered. A messenger arrived, breathless and wide-eyed, carrying news that sent a ripple through the fortress walls. Rival packs had sensed the Lycan King's Omega had arrived, and their envy and ambition could not be contained. Adric's jaw tightened, his eyes flashing with gold and fire. "No one will touch her," he growled, his claws tapping the stone floor with restrained fury. "She is mine. I claimed her. I will not allow anyone to harm her while I draw breath." Elijah, though trembling, felt a surge of something fierce inside her. For the first time, she realized that being his Omega was not just about submission. It was about strength, partnership, and an unbreakable bond. And as she looked up at him, standing like a living mountain of power and devotion, she whispered, almost to herself, "Then I will stay. I will not hide from you. I promise." Adric's lips brushed her temple, a fleeting touch that spoke louder than words. "Good, because I will never let you go, Elijah. Not for a night, not for a moment. You are mine, and I am yours, always." Outside, the forest trembled under the wind's song, as if nature itself acknowledged the union of King and Omega. Inside, in the quiet aftermath of whispered promises and shared vulnerability, Alicia finally felt something she had never known: home. But danger was already moving closer, and the tests of love, loyalty, and courage had only just begun. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the fortress in twilight, a purplish haze settling over the jagged towers. Inside, the halls of Valdora were alive with a subtle hum of anticipation. Guards patrolled with heightened alertness, their eyes scanning the darkened forests for any sign of threat. Alicia stood near the massive stained glass window of her chambers, watching the first stars flicker in the sky. She still felt the warmth of Adric's presence lingering around her like a shield, yet her heart raced with unease. This world she had stepped into, this kingdom of strength, power, and dominance, was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly consuming. A low growl vibrated through the floor beneath her feet. Alicia froze. The sound wasn't just a warning, it was a promise. She knew without looking that Adric was near, that his wolf sensed every whisper of danger before it even touched her senses. "Alicia," he said, appearing from the shadows like smoke curling through the air. His golden eyes glimmered, fierce and molten. "They are coming. I can feel them. Packs who think they can challenge me, who think they can take what is mine." She turned to him, fear trembling in her voice. What do we do?" Adric closed the distance between them in a single stride, lifting her gently into his arms. The weight of his body, solid and warm, seemed to ground her fear even as it heightened her awareness of the threat outside. "We survive together, and I will show them the cost of crossing the Lycan King. But first," he lowered his voice, a soft rumble that vibrated against her ear, "you must let me protect you fully. No more hiding, no more trembling in the shadows." Alicia nodded, pressing her forehead against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath the armor of muscle and wolfish power. I trust you," she whispered. "Good," he murmured, his lips brushing the top of her head. "Because trusting me isn't enough. They will test us. But I will never let harm come to you. Not while I breathe." The distant howl of rival wolves echoed through the valley, a chilling symphony that promised chaos. Adric's expression darkened, his claws flexing as he prepared for battle. "They will regret crossing the king, and they will regret daring to come near my Omega." Alicia felt a surge of fear, and surprisingly, courage at his words. For the first time, she understood that being his Omega wasn't about helplessness. It was about connection, trust, and strength, even in her trembling form. The first wave of intruders hit the outer perimeter under the cover of darkness. Shadows moved among the trees, wolves of rival packs seeking advantage, unaware of the strength awaiting them. Adric's roar shattered the night, a sound so powerful it seemed to shake the forest itself. Alicia clutched his cloak, pressed against him as he transformed. The air was filled with the scent of his wolf, the rich magnetic odor of dominance, territory, and protection. Muscles rippled beneath his skin, fur glinting in the moonlight as his eyes blazed with golden fire. He was a force of nature incarnate, a king in every sense, and Alicia realized in awe that this man, this beast, was hers and she was his. The battle outside was a blur of movement and power. Rivals tried to breach the walls, but Adric's presence turned the tide. Each growl, each strike, each movement was precise, calculated, and devastating. Yet amidst the chaos, he never let go of Alicia's hand, never let her feel abandoned. When the last shadow fell, silence reclaimed the night. Adric returned to Alicia, his form shifting back from beast to king, and the golden fire in his eyes softened into warmth. He held her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "See, nothing can harm you while I am near. You are mine, Alicia, and I will protect you until my last breath." She shivered, overwhelmed by relief and desire. "I am not afraid anymore," she admitted, her voice trembling with newfound strength. "Because you are here, and I am yours." Adric's lips curved into a wolfish grin, his fangs just visible. "Always?" he whispered. "No hiding, no fear."
"Only us, only trust, only love."
The moon shone brighter now, as if blessing the union of king and Omega, protector and beloved. And inside, in the fortress of shadows and firelight, Alicia finally embraced what she had been denying herself, a love that was as fierce, untamed, and eternal as the Lycan King who held her heart in his golden gaze. But as they stood together, the distant winds carried whispers of new enemies, darker and more cunning than before. Their love had survived the night, but the storm was far from over. Night had fallen again, but this time, the fortress of Valdora was alive with whispers, not of rival packs, but of secrets buried deep within its walls. Elysia moved cautiously through the dimly lit corridors, her fingers brushing the cold stone as if grounding herself. The events of the previous night, the battle, the roar, the surge of Adric's power, still pulsed in her veins. Yet something in her whispered unease. Danger never rested, and even kings could be blindsided. Adric appeared silently at her side, his golden eyes glowing softly in the torchlight. "You shouldn't wander alone," he said, his voice a growl tempered with concern. I couldn't sleep," Elysia admitted, her silver hair falling in soft waves around her face. "There's so much I don't understand about you, about this kingdom, about me." He cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing against the warmth of her skin. "Then I will teach you. You are mine, and I will guide you. But you must promise me, no hiding, no walls between us. Every fear, every secret, you share it with me. Only then will you be safe." She nodded, a shiver running through her as his hand lingered. "I promise," she whispered. Adric leaned closer, his lips brushing the shell of her ear, his breath warm and intoxicating. "Good, because tonight you will see not just the power of the king, but the bond of the Omega." They stepped onto the fortress balcony, the moon illuminating the forest like a silver sea. Below, wolves patrolled, shadows flickering in and out of the tree line. But it was not their eyes that caused Elysia to tense. It was the glint of movement far in the distance, subtle yet deliberate. Rival packs were watching, waiting for the slightest weakness. Adric's hand tightened around hers, his claws barely brushing her fingers, a silent promise of protection. "They think they understand me. They think they can challenge my Omega. They are fools," he growled, golden eyes flashing. "But they will learn the cost of underestimating the king and his bond." Elysia felt a warmth rise in her chest, an odd combination of fear, desire, and awe. I want to help," she murmured. "Even if I'm small, even if I'm weak, I want to be with you." He lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You are not weak. You are mine. And your strength lies not in muscle or fang, but in heart, trust, and loyalty. Tonight you will see that." As the night deepened, Adric revealed the hidden chambers of the fortress, a labyrinth of ancient corridors, secret passages, and war rooms where the Lycan kings of old had plotted their victories. Elysia followed closely, her breath hitching with every step, the thrill of danger mingling with the heat of his presence. Finally, they reached a hidden balcony overlooking the valley. Adric pulled her close, the scent of his wolf wrapping around her, the warmth of his body grounding her trembling form. "Look," he whispered, "see how far our enemies will go to find weakness. But we are not weak, not while we are together." Elysia's hands rested against his chest, feeling the steady, powerful heartbeat beneath her fingertips. "I trust you," she said, her voice firmer this time. "I trust us." Adric's lips curved into a predatory, tender smile. "Then let me show you, Omega, what it means to be seen, loved, and protected. No hiding. Not tonight, not ever." And under the silver gaze of the moon, their bond deepened. He pressed his forehead to hers, growling softly, a sound of possessive devotion. She shivered, not from fear, but from the intensity of being wholly known, wholly desired, and wholly safe. But as they stood there, intertwined against the cold stone and endless night, a shadow moved across the distant tree line, silent, deliberate, and filled with intent. The storm of enemies, secrets, and challenges was only beginning. Elysia realized, with a thrill and a tremor in her heart, that she was not merely an Omega. She was the heart of the king's world, and everything would be tested for that bond. The night air was thick, scented with pine earth, and something darker, an unspoken threat that pressed against the walls of Valdora. Elysia clung to Adric as they reached the outer terrace, her silver hair tangled by the wind. Every nerve in her body screamed, but she no longer trembled purely from fear. Tonight, she was learning the meaning of strength, the kind that came from trust, from unity, from a bond forged in fire and shadow. "They've come," Adric growled, his body tensing. His golden eyes glowed with lethal intensity as he scanned the valley. Shadows flickered, wolves fast and silent, trying to probe the fortress defenses. "They think they can take what is mine." Elijah swallowed, gripping his arm. Can they? Adric's lips curved into a wolfish grin, dangerous and confident. Not while I stand. Not while you are with me. He shifted, transforming before her eyes. Muscles expanded, sprouting in golden black waves, his stature becoming monstrous yet regal. The raw power radiating from him was intoxicating. Elijah's heart pounded, not in fear, but in awe and desire. Her body responded instinctively, leaning into him, trusting him utterly. The first wave of rivals struck, a flurry of teeth and claws under the moonlight. Adric roared, a sound so feral it shook the trees, and lunged, a whirlwind of power and precision. Wolves fell back, scattering, unable to withstand the onslaught of a king defending his omega. Elijah's pulse raced, not from the fight, but from the intimacy of standing so close to him in his raw wolf form. She could feel every ripple of his strength, every surge of his dominance, and it thrilled her in ways she had never known. Stay close to me, Adric murmured, his golden eyes flashing toward her. I will protect you always. But you must not hide, not from me, not from them, not from yourself. Elijah nodded, letting her hands rest on his massive shoulders. I won't hide, she whispered. As the battle raged, Adric fought with a precision and brutality that left the invaders stunned. Yet in every moment he kept one eye on Elijah, his growls softening when she shivered, adjusting his stance to shield her from harm. His duality, the predator and the protector, was mesmerizing. Finally, the last intruders fell back into the forest, beaten, humiliated, and fearful. Adric transformed back into his human form, towering over Elijah, sweat and moonlight glinting on his skin. He pulled her into his chest, holding her tightly, possessively. You see, he murmured, pressing his forehead to hers. No one can harm you. Not tonight, not ever. You are mine, Omega. Elijah pressed herself closer, her body trembling, not from fear, but from the thrill of being wholly protected, wholly desired, and wholly claimed. I am yours, she whispered, her lips brushing his jaw. Completely. Adric's hands cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek tenderly. And I am yours always. You are my heart, my soul, my Omega. Never forget that. The wind stirred the trees around them, as if nature itself acknowledged the bond they shared, a union of strength, love, and unbreakable devotion. Yet even in that triumph, Elijah could sense the undercurrents of challenges yet to come, rival packs, palace intrigues, secrets lurking in shadow. But for now, under the silver gaze of the moon, with her body pressed to his, she allowed herself to breathe, to trust, to surrender, and as Adric lowered his lips to hers in a slow, consuming kiss, Elijah realized something profound. Being his Omega was not about weakness, or hiding, or trembling. It was about power, the power of love, of connection, of trust, the kind of power that could move mountains, topple enemies, and ignite hearts. And she had found it.